Mizan always dreamed of a quiet place. He was tired of the city. The noise, the traffic, the endless rush. It just wore him down. He wanted a small house, a place to rest his mind. So he bought one. It was an old house in a small village in northern Dinajpur. The price was very low. Maybe, honestly, too low. The paint was peeling off the walls like old, dry skin. The windows were cracked and dusty, but Mizan saw potential. He saw a peaceful weekend home where he could escape the chaos of his daily life. He imagined sitting on the porch, sipping tea, and listening to the birds. It was his perfect escape. His plan was simple. He would spend his weekends working on the house. He brought his tools, some new paint, and a lot of hope. The first weekend was wonderful. He fixed a broken window and cleared the overgrown garden. The fresh air felt good in his lungs. The silence was a welcome friend. He thought about the coming months. He would repair the roof. He would paint the walls a bright, happy yellow. This old house would become his sanctuary, his personal paradise far from the loud streets and busy offices of the city. He felt proud of his decision, happy with his new project. As the sun went down, the village grew even quieter. The only sounds were the crickets chirping their nightly song. Mizan made a simple dinner and sat by the fireplace. He felt a deep sense of peace wash over him. This was exactly what he needed. No emails, no phone calls, just the crackling of the fire and the gentle shadows dancing on the walls. He felt completely alone, but not lonely. He felt safe. He went to bed early, excited to wake up and continue his work the next morning. The house seemed to welcome him with its old, creaking embrace. But something about the house felt off. It was a feeling he couldn't quite name. Maybe it was the way the wind whistled through the cracks in the walls, or the way the floorboards groaned under his feet as if they were whispering secrets. He told himself it was just an old house. Old houses make strange noises. They have character. He pushed the uneasy feeling away and closed his eyes. He was just tired from a long week of work. A good night's sleep was all he needed to feel right again. The house, however, had other plans for him. The first time he heard it, he thought he was dreaming. A soft, strange sound. Knock, knock, knock. It seemed to come from far away. Mizan opened his eyes. The room was dark and silent. He must have imagined it. He rolled over and tried to go back to sleep. But then it came again, louder this time. Knock, knock, knock. It was a steady, rhythmic sound. It was not the wind. It was not a branch hitting the window. This was different. This was deliberate. And it seemed to be coming from directly beneath his bed, from under the floor. He tried to ignore it. He pulled the blanket over his head. It's an old house, he told himself again. It's just settling. But the sound was persistent. Knock, knock, knock. It happened at the same time every night, just after midnight. His peaceful weekends were no longer peaceful. The sound filled his head, making it impossible to rest. He started to dread the nights. The once welcoming silence of the village now felt heavy and menacing. The house was no longer his sanctuary. It was becoming his prison, a place of growing fear. After a week of sleepless nights, Mizan couldn't take it anymore. His curiosity turned into a desperate need for answers. Who or what was making that sound? He waited until midnight, his heart pounding in his chest like a drum. As soon as the knocking started, he jumped out of bed. He put his ear to the cold wooden floor. The sound was clearer now, stronger. It was definitely coming from below. He pushed his bed aside and began examining the floorboards, searching for any clue, any sign of what was hidden beneath. He found it near the wall. One of the wooden planks was loose. He pulled at it with all his might. It groaned in protest before finally coming free. Underneath was not dirt, but darkness. A dark square hole leading down into blackness. And from that hole, a terrible smell drifted up. It was the smell of damp earth and something else, something rotten, something dead. He grabbed his flashlight, took a deep breath, and pointed the beam into the hole. It revealed a set of old, rickety wooden stairs leading down into a hidden basement he never knew existed. With his hand shaking, Mizan slowly climbed down the stairs. The air grew colder with each step. The smell became stronger, making him want to gag. The flashlight beam cut through the thick darkness, revealing a small, dirt-floored room. It was a cellar. In the center of the room was a single wooden chair. And in that chair, Mizan gasped, stumbling backward. There was a skeleton. It was sitting upright, its bony frame held to the chair with old frayed ropes. Its empty eye sockets seemed to stare right at him, a silent, horrifying welcome. He wanted to run. He wanted to scream and climb out of that horrible hole and never look back. But he was frozen in place, a fly caught in a spider's web. His flashlight beam moved around the room, illuminating damp walls and cobwebs as thick as cotton. He saw a small, moldy book lying on the floor near the skeleton. His curiosity, stronger than his fear, forced him to pick it up. It was a teacher's diary. The last entry was dated 5 years ago. It read, "He locked me down here. He says the house won't let him leave, and now it won't let me leave either." The next morning, Mizan went to the village market. He needed answers. His face was pale, his eyes wide with fear. He found a group of old men drinking tea under a banyan tree. He tried to sound casual. "I bought the old house at the end of the lane," he said. "Do you know who lived there before?" The men stopped talking. They looked at each other with knowing glances. One old man finally spoke. "That was Raisa's house," he said softly. "She was a teacher, a lovely young woman. She disappeared about 5 years ago, just vanished without a trace." Mizan felt a cold chill run down his spine. Raisa, the name from the diary. The villagers told him more. They said the house was always strange. They said that even before Raisa, people who lived there had problems. Some said they heard noises. Others said they felt like they were always being watched. They warned Mizan to be careful. They said the house has a dark history, a secret that it keeps locked within its walls. "That house doesn't like visitors," the old man added, his voice a low whisper. "It holds on to people." Mizan rushed back to the house, his mind racing. He had to pack his bags. He had to leave this place immediately. He couldn't spend another night there, knowing what was in the basement. The house was not a sanctuary. It was a tomb. He threw his clothes into a bag, his hands trembling so badly he could barely zip it shut. He didn't care about the money he had spent. He just wanted to escape. He grabbed his keys and ran for the front door, not daring to look back at the dark hole in the floor. But the door wouldn't open. The lock was jammed. He pulled and pushed, but it wouldn't budge. He tried the back door. It was also stuck fast. He ran to the windows, but they were sealed shut, as if they were part of the wall itself. Panic set in. He was trapped. The house was holding him captive. He pounded on the door, shouting for help, but the village was too far away. No one could hear him. The once quiet house now seemed to be alive, its silence pressing in on him from all sides. He sank to the floor, defeated. That's when he saw it. Lying on the small table by the door was a photograph. He didn't remember putting it there. He picked it up. His blood ran cold. The picture was of him. He was in his bed, sleeping peacefully. It was taken from the corner of the room, from a high angle. It was impossible. He lived alone. Who could have taken this picture? When was it taken? The realization hit him like a physical blow. He was not alone in the house. He had never been alone. The sun began to set, casting long, dark shadows across the room. Soon it would be midnight. Soon the knocking would start again. Mizan sat on the floor, the photograph clutched in his hand, his hope draining away with the fading light. He was part of the house's story now, another secret hidden within its walls. The house had found a new guest, and it never, ever lets go. Epilogue. A few years later, the old house was sold again. A new family, hopeful for a quiet life, moved in. The villagers watch from a distance. They still hear the strange knocking sounds at night. Sometimes, they say, they hear 2 sets of knocking, coming from under the floorboards of the old house at the end of the lane.